I want to express my gratitude to all of you for this incredible support you have shown for this series. Welcome back everyone, let's wrap up the remaining clothing items. Today we are diving into the 3D modeling of jacket and shoes. If at any point during today's session you find the process is a bit repetitive, take it as a positive sign. It means you have learned well enough to predict the next step before seeing them. This is Ram from Crossmind Studio and you are tuning into chapter number 6 of animated character creation series. For bonus chapters, project files and other useful stuff, check out the premium version. Details, hotkeys, PDF and more resources are in the description. Let's dive right in. For the jacket, select the t-shirt and create a duplicate of this. We can edit this into jacket. So first thing I'm going to do is expand this a little. Yeah, something like this. And select this center loop. And then I can press V and rip this apart. I've changed proportional editing to connected only. Basically, I want front to have an opening here. Like this. I'll select this loop, Control plus on the number pad, delete these. I'll just recreate a little part of this. So if you want, you can get rid of these borders, unnecessary geometry that we had made. But just in case, if you plan to use your character in different states, like with the clothes on, with t-shirt on, jacket on and off. So you might want to keep details underneath it. So extrude the border and extend it till forearm to create the sleeves of the jacket. I'm going to add few extra loops for the cuff of jacket and add a few loops here and bulge it out. So just work on the one side and then we can symmetrize this. Selecting the loops and reorienting these. Just observing what works, what not. And here, I think the sleeves could be much more tighter, wrapped around the skin. So just have a look at the jacket sleeves, a few reference, or if you have one, when the arms are tucked in, how it folds. Yeah, more or less seems fine. It's just that I want the arms to be a bit more puffier. I mean, jacket right here, because the material is a bit stiff, so it's not exactly going to fall on and shrink around the body. So it's a bit more structured, stiff on the structure. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. Yeah, it seems fine. Just going to add a bit more volume here. I just want this to look a bit more stacked, like much more cloth is being folded here. Full length of arm sleeve is crunched in this much area. We are not creating any realistic folds or anything. Just try to deform some of these loops and let's see if we can symmetrize this. And I want this jacket to be shorter than the t-shirt, bit shorter, not much. So about this much. I'm just going to try and change the matte cap. I keep shuffling between different matte cap types. Sometimes shinier matte caps give much more clearer view of what's happening in the surface. So just made a bevel here to create the separation for the cuff of jacket. Right here, what I can do is make it a slightly more rounder shape. Just trying to make it look a bit puffier, and just look at the back, and we don't need this to conform to body. Instead, keep it straight and just fix a bit of shape at the back because we extracted this from the body, so it's still following some of that older shape. So the basic structure is there. Now I'm going to get rid of these collars. We are not going to need it. And instead, we are going to create a different kind of collar. So just disable the proportionate editing for now. and make it something like this. Extend it with the extrude tool and just try to arrange it in the shape of the collars. And also going to add one edge loop in between. Control R to add a loop to fill this bigger stretch with few extra loops. Pretty simple standard standing rib net collar type. I don't want to use loop tools because this is not exactly a round collar. And once we are done, let's symmetrize this. Let's see how this looks. So these are way too high on the neck. Instead, I can lower these down. There's usually a partition between collars and the main part of the jacket. So that's what I'm going to do. Create a simple bevel with Control B and extrude these inside. With the proportionate editing, just scroll your brush up and down. And then I'll see if there are any flat surfaces. I'm just going to bulge these out a little. Just want to keep it soft and round shape. And then smooth out the overall shape. Right here, we can create seam for the arm, so something like this. But before that, I think we can give it a bit circular formation. If I make a circle with loop tools, yeah, this does the job. And then Control B and create a sort of a seam. Add a few loops to strengthen these areas, and Alt E extrude along normals, and there you go. If you find it way too flat, you can always adjust it later. Just try and break the flat straight lines to make it more natural, like it's actually worn by a person. Symmetrize again to have the sleeve on the both sides. You can also keep it symmetrical by using mirror modifier if you want. Just delete the half of the jacket. But I'm just thinking we would need to keep it asymmetrical, and for that reason I'm not using modifier. Pretty much done, and here just need to add one extra loop right at the bottom, and you even this out, spread it out nicely, and let's see how we can create the zipper front, which is going to be from here. I'm just going to select this entire loop at the bottom and create one bevel, thin line, extrude along normal for waistband separation. And right here, I'm going to select this entire line, slide this inside, and create an additional extrusion like this for zipper front. Add one more loop in between. Just push this loop in a little and create a bevel to create the separation at the end. Yeah, something like this. In these areas, we are going to add one zipper later on with the help of geometry nodes. But right now, we just need to make room for that geometry and just extend this a little. To give this a slightly rounder look, I'm just going to add one more loop in between and push this out like this. And just going to close upper and bottom part where we are going to put a stopper later on. Yeah, so here we can create zip if we want later on, if we are going into that much detail, but for now I'm going to leave it as it is. And right about here, add one more loop and push it out like this. And right about here, I'm going to select these collar edges and create an extrusion, move it inside, just to add a bit of depth in the fabric of collar. Just fill few of these open areas with F. Select these edges, press F. Now all I'm doing is just trying to break the symmetry on the both side. a little, even though we can do that in the pose mode once the character is rigged, but few of the things I want to have asymmetry on the model level as well. I'll just see if I can create few crease. These might won't look much at this moment, but when we apply some glossy material on these, it's going to catch some nice highlights. Yeah, so even though we haven't really sculpted any details and this is not high resolution, but at least it appears softer, and with a little bit of tweak, these bulges and not really high resolution folds, but still a bit of distortion here and there, it's going to create illusion of soft cloth, which is enough for me. So that's the reason I'm trying to limit myself and not get ambitious or anything. There you go, you have the jacket, and here I'm going to select these two loops, and on these two loops I can create a vertex group. Let's call it zip and assign this. Right here I'm going to bring geometry node editor, click on new. So for the zip, what I can do is simply bring delete geometry, and what we want to delete is this attribute, the lines that we made in a vertex group. So put that into selection and set this to edges, and you'll see this node is deleting this geometry. So instead, if we bring one Boolean node, Boolean math, and invert the selection, set this to not, now we have only this part of the jacket. So what we can do is bring one map range and put this right after the attribute, and here we can start adjusting. Basically we can shrink and expand this selection. So now we are only left with that particular edge. And now if I bring mesh 2 points and yeah, now here I'm going to bring a simple cube which we are going to use as a zipper, and bring one instances on points. So on the points of these lines that we made earlier, we want to instance this cube, really tiny scale, like 0.02 or something. And now we can merge the original geometry and this, Control Shift and click and drag. Or you can simply bring join geometry node right here. There's a different playlist for geometry node. If you are interested, just check the playlist section on the channel. All right. This you can do manually as well. Let's say if you select this, you can separate this, separate selection, and then you can convert this to curve, and on that curve you can use one array modifier. So you can do that as well, but the problem with that is anytime you do any changes in the jacket, you'll have to redo this whole thing again. So right now if I change the shape of this jacket, so the zip is going to follow. So that's the interesting part about this. 0.01. So if you want to have even distribution of these lines, what you can do is this geometry, delete this node for now, mesh 2 points, and instances 2 on points. So this geometry of lines we have here, convert this to mesh to curve. Now what will happen is if I bring curve to points now and instances on points, now we have even distribution. So now with this curve to point, you can increase the number of points you want to create on this curve, and this is going to give you even distribution. And if you want to align these to the shape of the jacket, directly plug the rotation here. Now the threads of the zipper are rotating and conforming according to the shape of the jacket. So that's about it for the jacket. Now let's move to the other part, which is shoes. Making shoes is going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to make one simple plane in the top view. Yeah. Go to the edit mode, scale it down about the proportion of the feet. Now we are going to make 3 loop cuts in the length and 2 loop cuts in the width for now. Let's select all the outer vertices and scale these down. So this is the base of the shoe. If you apply subdivision surface with control 1 or 2, you're going to see this roundish shape, which is a good start. Now I'm going to select all these faces and extrude these upwards to make the sole of the shoe. And now I can select all these upper faces, create one inset like this, and create one extrusion upwards. I'm going to create a bit of space for more edge loops in the center. So this is going to be front of the shoe. So I'm just going to push this inside to create that round formation that you typically see in front of the shoe. And also just bulge this out a little. And this is going to be the back side. So let's go to the side view. This kind of reminds me of second chapter of introduction series, where we made a sandal and several different objects. So we are just going to make use of what we have learned in the past. We can get rid of these 9 faces. Create one inset first and then delete this. Shade smooth. I'm going to add one loop here to sort of create a rounder shape. Just make necessary edits with proportionate editing tool. Once I have the basic geometry, I'm just going to revisit the overall shape and volume. So just working on the overall shape of the shoe, we'll have to figure out a few things like how to create the side flaps and all. But first, I just want to make sure that there are enough loops based on which we will create the rest of the details. I think overall it looks fine. And I think there's plenty of geometry for us to move ahead. I'm going to select this loop here and extrude this upward like this. Alright. Pretty simple generic shape of the shoe that you typically see, especially for kids. Now here I'm going to select all of these faces, this much, and create one extrude along normals. Make it twice to create a hard surface around these parts. I'm going to add one edge loop here as well, just to make sure that I'm not making some crooked geometry. I'm just going to shuffle back and forth between subdivision mode and turn it on and off. So this seems fine. Actually, I'm going to add one more loop here, right between the shoe and sole, to create this nice separation. This could be extruded upwards. And I'll do the same. Select this entire line with control. Create one extrusion, move it upwards. And we can make this diagonal like this. So kids' shoes have all of these fancy designs. To make this line slightly more stronger, I'm going to add one more edge loop, add just one. So just smooth this out a little. Now let's go to the top view and start breaking the straight lines. So I might have made a mistake here. I think I was a bit careless and I was working in perspective view. It's usually better to work in orthographic views when you're working on profiles. So overall this looks fine. Just going to shade smooth this and just extrude this entire border and scale it inside to add a bit of depth to this border. You don't exactly need to follow it step by step, just have a look at the overall picture. I think you kind of understand and get the point what we are doing here. So Just work on the overall shape, adjust the volumes, and keep adding loops whenever you need to detail something. Now I'm going to select these two front edges, press Shift D and create one separate geometry with this. I'm going to extrude this way with that extracted line that we just made. And this is going to be shoe tongue. Above this, we are going to tie laces. Alright. Now I can add few more loops to round it up like this. Just going to select this entire loop and see if I can create one harsh line here. So maybe just scale it down a little. Just going to adjust the top line collar a bit. I think it could be a bit more softer. Now I'm going to select this entire loop, which is at the opening of the shoe, and going to extrude this and move it downwards to sort of create lining. Now right here, what I think is we can have slightly more taller shoe. So I'm just going to move it up a little bit more and do the same for this tongue here. Overall, it's forming well. We just need to add shoelaces and all that. What if I extrude these this way, and we can also select this entire thing and extrude it outwards 2 times, just so that it appears solid and not a thin flat plane. We can make the inner lining a bit more softer. Maybe I can pull few of these faces manually in and out. Try to keep things uneven. Try to break the symmetry. Just want to add a bit of collar padding. Add one loop here. Maybe one more here right at the main collar. Create one simple bevel to make a hard line for separation between fabrics. So this looks fine. Now the only thing left is eyelets, where we are going to tie shoelaces. So just make some room for it, maybe slide few of these edges. Let's select few of these square faces here for eyelets. Before that, I think I need to make these proper square. Make even distribution. I'm just looking for a few squares. So this one, and these. Create one inset and then delete these faces. So these seems way too bigger. So maybe if we create 2 insets, first inset and then second, and then delete these faces. Yeah. So I'm just going to fix these in the shape of the hole. I could have used circle from loop tools. Actually, yeah, let's do that. I'm going to select few of these and use circle from loop tools. It's not too late to fix it. And now we can create few shoelaces. So for the shoelaces, I'm simply going to create one curve, Bezier curve, and scale this down like this. First, I'll make this vector by pressing V so that the line appears straight and it's easy to manipulate. In the curve properties, we can simply increase the depth so that the curve have some geometry. Now select both of these and extrude these upwards like this. For these eyelets, create one more extrusion so that these holes have some outline. I'm selecting these loops with Alt and extrude along normal, and now these do look structurally a bit heavy. There you go. Now just make sure this shoelace is resting well on this shoe. I'm going to make a duplicate of this within the edit mode. Make one more duplicate and turn it this way. Adjust it according to the hole. You can also adjust the radius of the shoelaces by pressing Alt S because it's a curve object. And then we can create few diagonal lines with control click. So all of these commands were discussed in a beginner series. So any of you who are new to Blender, please don't try to attempt this as your first assignment in Blender. So there's a series for beginners. If you just head to the playlist section, it's called Introduction to Blender for Absolute Beginners. So it's going to clear out all the basics and commands, memorize those with the assignments which are there in the tutorial so that this is much easier for you to follow along. Subdivide these curves. This curve could be opposite. It could be inside out. We can move it this way so that it comes out of this hole, and then we can tie a knot in this. I'm not really good with knots, so I'm just going to give it an overall shape. If you want, you can also use Alt S command to scale the radius up and down. So I'm just going to try and make a knot here. I have no idea how to make it in 3D. And yeah, I'm clearly struggling with it, but I think it's almost there. I might revisit this later on. So I'm just extruding these points and creating these shoelaces. Press E to extrude. Just going to make a few tweaks here. Now I'll select both of these, disable the isolation mode, and align this to our character. I want these shoes to be bigger. I think the origin should be at the center of geometry, origin to geometry. Now once the foot is inside shoe, I'm just checking the proportions. This big of shoe I want. So here, now I'll select this shoe, shape of the shoe to adjust according to the character. I'm just going to select these loops, enable the proportionate editing, disable connected only. I might have to tweak shoelaces again, but don't worry about that too much. Let's see if we can dissolve this edge. Yeah, so that one edge was completely unnecessary. So we can clean that out. Yeah, it appears much more smoother now. And the only thing we need to do is just keep tweaking the shape a little. I want this to be a bit more cartoony. Just checking all, just checking all possible corners for improvements. Now here I'm thinking of adding one more loop to create sort of a crease at the front. Like this. I think we might have designed a shoe for ourselves. Just need to fix the shoe padding a little. I think it could appear a bit more softer overall. So just pushing out few of these pinched areas. I think we are done with the shoe. So these feet were just the placeholders, so don't worry about the feet. Now we need to make a bit of geometry for sole of the shoe. So if I select this part and extrude it down like this, and then I can select few of these alternatively, and then I can extrude these downwards as well. So this is a completely optional thing, just in case if you plan on making some animation where the bottom of the shoe would be visible. And now I can select front of these with proportionate editing. I just want to attempt it. A bit rotation right here. Maybe we can add a bit of a hook or something at the back of the counter. These are completely optional things, and if you have something else in mind, feel free to improvise a little. Whatever you make, just keep it bold and chunky so that it stays with the style. And then I'm just going to create one extrusion here to make the collars a bit more prominent. Now I'm just going to select this leg and expand this selection just this much. Press Shift D to make a duplicate and then separate this selection. This we can use to make socks. Use Shrink and Fatten tool to expand this a little and maybe scale this down so that this line is a bit more straight. Now right here, I'm just going to select this, extrude it inwards, extrude it again to create a thick edge. Like this. This looks a bit disoriented, so I can delete this edge, dissolve edge, and add another loop, fresh one, so that it's straight. Bevel one edge, extrude inside along normal. Just going to add few more loops here and then start distorting this geometry a little like a actual cloth. Now what I can do is select all of these three things, apply location, so that once I apply a mirror modifier on these, it would perfectly mirror because the center is at the world origin. The only thing I would like to do is select this shoe in the edit mode, just point it outwards like this. Do the same for the shoelaces, align it to the shoes, and we are pretty much done. If there's any minor error here and there, I'll fix it later, so don't worry about it too much. Yeah, so now it looks like a proportion of our character. I mean, we have exaggerated scale here in the head, so too tiny of shoes would look bad. We will add a few more details in the final chapter of the modeling session in the cleanup stage and make up pockets of the jacket and maybe add a few more details in between. And that wraps up the clothing part. The entire character model is now complete. Now consider adding a few more small details that can elevate your 3D character to a different level. Maybe the character is wearing a wristband, or there's a earphone hanging out of the pocket, a small iPod, or something similar. Think of few small additions that can provide an extra layer of detail to your character, and it will also help you in secondary animations in the later stage. In the next video, we will be adding some of these elements: bag, glasses, wristband, badges, muffler, clothing tags, buttons, etc. Can't wait to see this whole character complete with the colors and everything, and also would love to see what you guys are making. Jump to Discord server if you'd like to discuss anything related to this on channel dedicated to this series. Check pinned comment for frequently asked questions and problems. Check description for PDF of keyboard shortcuts, discount coupons and other mentioned resources for this tutorial. If you enjoyed this chapter, do check out the full playlist and hope you continue all the way till the end. Also consider buying the premium version and unlock the additional chapters and project files and bonus content, which will take you through the process of rigging with Rigify, creating a nice walk cycle animation, creating secondary animations using plot physics and bone constraints, and rendering your entire project using Cycles render engine. Share your work with me on Instagram, tag me with Crossmind, and participate in discussion on Discord channel for this course. Links are in the description. Please give it a like and subscribe and stay tuned for more. Share your thoughts in the comment section and don't forget to share it with your colleagues and on social media to help us reach the wider audience. Thank you for all your support and love. Let's jump to the next video.